Hi, this is Mark again in the shop, and I just wanted to go over some processes with you really quickly to give you an idea of what we can help you with in the shop and how to fabricate something fairly easily and quickly. We're going to kind of concentrate today on your base and your tube and your socket and how to build the body for it. Okay, very traditional type lamp. So the easiest thing to do is to find what you're going to use for your base. And inside your base, you can put all your electrical, your switch, if you need a transformer for your LED, and your cord. It's hidden inside your base. The tube itself runs up the center, which helps you hide the wire in the tube, attach it to your socket, and that becomes the top of the base. So here's your tube. You plop it in. Now, your wire can run up the center of this. It's protected, and you got it. Then all you need to do, go ahead and flip a little bit, is to start building the components or the little pieces that you want to do to make your shape or your lamp or your base or whatever, or the body, okay? So these are bodies. And that already has the tube running from the base up to the socket. Base to socket. And each one of these components are separate. It's easier to make each one component separate and then assemble them over your tube, which gives you perfect alignment. Also helps you disguise your cord, and you can go from there. So very easily I can show you a bunch of shapes that we can make here in the shop pretty readily. We can do squares, larger squares, we can do circles, we can do squares with beveled edges. We can do other shapes, very simple. These shapes become a little bit more complicated because you have to do a little bit more work. But there's actually, to make that shape, if you look at this, that's the start of that shape. You could do 4 pieces like this, stack a smaller one and a smaller on top of this, and it starts moving backwards. And then all you got to do is blend those shapes. But it starts with the basic shape, okay? So we started with a circle, we put a little bevel in it, we can make 2 more circles smaller with the same kind of bevel, and it starts angling away. Those can be done really quickly, and they don't necessarily have to be shaped like smoothly all the way through. You can just leave them, okay? So now you have your shape, and you have your center hole, which is we put in every one of the pieces. Then you can start arranging these things. So this could be your spacer. We can make circular spacers, we could use metal spacers, we could do whatever we want, nylon spacers, whatever. And now you're starting to build your lamp. Very traditional, but very easily made. And you can add decorative shapes to it. Now we got a different type of shape, and we're working our way up. So let's say we want this to be a thicker. So we just make it thicker. This is all done with scrap material. So there's another thing to think about. If you can get away with pre-existing material that you have, or material that the shops can give you, it saves you a lot. And you're never going to find a piece of material this thick. You're going to have to make it anyway. So now we can go back to this. Then we can put a bevel piece in like this. And all these can be oriented differently. You can turn it 90 degrees, this 90 degrees, and then you start getting a rhythm in your base, okay? Or in your base, in your body. So I just wanted to go over this process really quick with you. This is called an additive method. I think it's the easiest way to make anything. Right now, as long as you establish a center point, which you have to anyway because you're running your tube through it, and basically you just make sure the hole is in the same spot inside. You can make it either by hand like this, or you can laser cut a whole bunch of pieces and end up with something like this, which is on the same principle. There's a center core here. All these pieces are laser cut. All the spacers are cut here in the shop. Stack them, and you got a pretty ornate lamp in comparison. So I just wanted to run over those little things really quick with you. We're going to do a few more of these videos on how to use bend wood, how to laser cut, how to 3D print, all that stuff. So it just gives you more latitude in your designs and flexibility in your material. Okay? Thanks. Okay, this is a process video on how to make a circle for your lamps. And the first thing I do is cut the size of the square to the diameter of the circle. Once I do that, I find the center of the circle just by crossing the corners like that, and that'll find the center. Once I find the center of the circle, the next thing I do is find and outline the circle itself. And I do that because I want to, the process I'm using, I'm going to be sanding, so I don't want a lot of material here because that means I have to sand all that off. It's easier if I cut it close to the line and then sand it to its finished shape. Much easier to do, a lot less dust, and I don't like to create dust. So once I create this hole, once I create the circle, I'll go over and cut the hole in it. Now the hole, I made the diameter of my tube. That way I don't have to drill it twice. I only have to drill it once. And I made a special little device to find the center of that for my fixture. And you'll see that when I get there. Okay, so the next step, once I get it over to the bandsaw, is I want to trim those tips off. And the easiest thing to do is just basically come in and just get as close as you can. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, this is the fixture, and basically it rotates parallel to the disc. And I made a special pin, the diameter of the hole that I drilled, so I could find the radius. These indicate radius marks, okay? So I put the pin in there, and then I can rotate this around into the disc, and that's what starts shaping it. The normal pin size is about 1/4 inch. That's the normal pin. I made one specially for the lamp tube, so if you need to do this process, we eliminate a whole step of re-drilling twice. So the next thing I'll do is set up a stop. This keeps me from going too far when I'm sanding. So I'm going to turn it in just a little bit. And you want to take little itty bitty increments off. You don't want to try to sand the whole thing up at once. You can actually rotate it either clockwise or counterclockwise. I prefer counterclockwise. I feel I have more control over it. Some people do it clockwise. And if you get going too fast clockwise, sometimes it lifts it right out of the fixture, and you don't want to do that, so I do counterclockwise. It puts a little resistance in it, and I have a better feel for the piece, so I always do it counterclockwise. And then basically, you pull it off the disc, never feed with against the disc. Turn the disc on, and you start rotating. And then as you rotate, you back off and stop. Yeah, we're going to start making this. So we had to turn the dust collector on because you could see how much dust was coming up, and you just keep rotating until you get the diameter that you're laid out for, and then you've got a finished circle. Once you get your set stop to the finished location, then you can turn 50 circles to the same size without having to mark them. The first one's the only one you really have to mark with your finished circle, so you can see where you're going to go. But once you do that, now you just grab another one. Once you hand me, and then you basically put the pin in. Make sure you get it in the same hole, and you just start rotating it after you've cut the corners off. And that's how simple it is to make a circle. You can make them up to about, depends on your thickness of material, but probably up to about 1.5 inches. I could turn 1.5 inch circle on this because I'm feeding it counterclockwise. If you feed it clockwise, you can't do that. So you can build it up that way. And if you wanted to bevel the edge of the circle to give it a taper, I can just adjust this table down, and as I rotate, it'll put a bevel on it at the same time.